Welcome again. I'm Maria Jose Vargas, and today I'm going to present you the chapters 4, 5, and 6 of The Great Gatsby. As I already mentioned in my last video, that's the context of the book, but I think it's important the concept of the new woman. Then in these 3 chapters, the character of Daisy Buchanan is a very important character. Then she actually represents the new woman of that century. Then she was a married woman, and she was in love with Gatsby. That means that she wasn't following the rules of the traditional woman, and she was the representation of that new woman that has new ideas and that behavior has a different behavior. That's why she's important. Well, that brings us to the plotline. First, these 3 chapters begin when Nick lists all of the people who attended at Gatsby's parties, and there was a roll of call of the nation's most wealthy and powerful people. Then he describes the trip he had to New York with Gatsby to eat lunch, and as they drive to the city, Gatsby tells Nick about his past, but for Nick the story seems quite improbable. Gatsby said he was the son of a wealthy and deceased parents from Midwest, and when Nick asks him which city he's from, Gatsby just replies San Francisco. Then Gatsby shows Nick a lot of proofs that he was educated at Oxford. He shows him a photograph, and he said that he had collected jewels in the capital of Europe. Well, as they passed through the Valley of Ashes, Gatsby wants to introduce Nick to a wealthy man named Mayor Wolfshim. He has underground business connection, and that gives Nick a bad impression. He thinks that Gatsby may have ties to this organized crime with Wolfshim. After the lunch, Nick sees Jordan Baker, who finally tells him what she had spoken with Gatsby at the night in Gatsby's party. She tells that Gatsby told her that he's in love with Daisy Buchanan, Tom's wife. And according to Jordan, during the war, she was a beautiful young lady which was in love with Jay Gatsby. But as Jay Gatsby go to the war, she married Tom Buchanan, but she was not in love with him. After that, Nick's remember the night he saw Gatsby for the first time, and he realized that that green light was the end of Daisy's talk. Finally, according to Jordan, Gatsby wants Nick to invite Daisy to tea. After that, tonight Nick's comes home from the city after a date with Jordan. He sees that Gatsby was not at his home, and that he's actually right in front of him. Gatsby wants to arrange Nick's house and Nick's garden for the tea. At the night of the date, it rains so much, and Gatsby worries that the things between him and Daisy will not be the same. As Daisy arrives, Nick finds out that Gatsby has suddenly disappeared. But then he heard a knock on the door, and as Nick opened the door, Gatsby enters and said he has returned from a walk around the house in the rain. At first, this small reunion with Daisy was terribly awkward, and Nick decided to go for half an hour, and as he returned, he finds out that Gatsby and Daisy were speaking, and they were remembering all of them things in the past, and they were actually in love. At the end, Nick wonders if Daisy and Gatsby will be together, and he said that, and they go to Gatsby's house, where and Gatsby's house, and Gatsby and Daisy have forgotten that he's there, and finally he gets up and leaves them alone. At the end, the rumors about Gatsby's continued to circulate in New York, and now Nick interrupts the story to relate Gatsby's personal history, not the one Gatsby claimed it occurred, but as it really happened. They first said Gatsby was born with the name James Gatz on North Dakota. He attended to a college named St. Olaf's in Minnesota, and he dropped out after 2 weeks, loading the humiliating janitorial work by means of which he paid his tuition. He worked on a lake, and one day he saw a yacht owned by a man named Dan Cody, a wealthy copper mogul, and they became friends, and this man gave James Gatz the name J. Gatsby. Traveling with Cody, Gatsby fell in love with the luxury and the rich people, which finally gives him the idea to have a work that gives him a lot of money. When Cody died, he left Gatsby a lot of money, but he eventually didn't receive them, and he dedicated himself to becoming a wealthy and successful man. As Nick doesn't see neither Gatsby nor Daisy for several weeks, one afternoon after he went home, he is alarmed to find Tom Buchanan there. And then Gatsby invites Tom and Daisy to a small party, which actually ended up and Daisy and Gatsby went together. And as the party was over, Gatsby was unhappy because Daisy has had such an unpleasant time, because Gatsby wants things to be exactly the same as they were before he left and before he went to war. Tom had suspected that Daisy had something, but he never finds out as the moment. And well, as I already mentioned, the plotline ended when Gatsby's act of rechristening himself symbolizes his desire. And when Nick reflects his dream is effectively over, then he said that he is worried that Gatsby's and Daisy's love won't work. Well, with the characters, Nick Carraway stays the same as before. Well, I think he could be. He's now a main character, and of course he's round, then and dynamic. Then he had um, he had changed, and before he wouldn't let Daisy with Gatsby, but something at Gatsby attracted him, and that's why he arranged everything to them be together. Well, of course, Gatsby is a main character, and he actually stays the same because for the first time we see that he has something, and he's very mysterious because we don't know from where does his fortune come from. And well, Jordan Baker doesn't play a big role here, as well as Tom Buchanan. They stay the same, but in this case, in difference with the previous chapters, Daisy Buchanan is now a main character. Then these 3 chapters are focused on her, and she's the center of Gatsby's desire. So that's why she is now a main character, and she is round and dynamic. Then she is married with Tom, but after the tea party, she fell in love again with Gatsby. Mayor Wolfshim is now a main character. He's the new character, and he's flat and static. Then we know that he is related with some bad business of bootlegging and other illegal stuff. So he's flat and static. He doesn't change, but he's main because because of him we have the idea that Jay Gatsby could be related with his with all his business. Well, then at least then Cody. He's a second character, but he's still important because he's the base in which Gatsby decided to be a rich man, and that's why he's important. And as I already said, the main conflict is in these 3 chapters still the love, because then it is not between Jordan and Nick, it is between Daisy and Gatsby. And they too had the conflict because Tom doesn't know Gatsby is now with Daisy, even though he suspects, but he doesn't know, and that's why the love develops the whole conflict on the story. And then other themes are the affair, because Daisy is cheating on Tom with Gatsby, the dirty business because of Wolfshim and Gatsby's fortune, and they say that it could be the bootlegging, the business in they are, and of course the illegal issues that is related with the dirty business. And at the end, we can say that the conflict is man versus man, because it's Daisy versus Tom and man versus self.